First of all, thank you everybody for tuning in to this presentation. I'm as anxious as you are to see what I have to say. I haven't done this before. And so the overall topic of tonight is to reminisce and recapitulate overall the years of where we started and with the club and the evolution of everything over the last 4 decades, which means that I unofficially have attained the status of an elder statesman, I guess, which I never thought I would reach because in the old days, everybody else was the elder statesman. So now I guess that's kind of where I am. And I look at myself on this screen and all I see is white hair. So good luck with that. I was introduced to Tillandsias back in the mid 60s. I had a class at UCLA and a TA in a herpetology class, and I got to be real good friends. And his name was Mark Dimmitt. And so I went over to Mark's house one day, and he had all these really strange, bizarre-looking things hanging in his patio that looked like they were from outer space or the bottom of the ocean. And I just couldn't believe that A, that there could be plants that look like that, and B, that they could grow without any dirt. So I was pretty fascinated. And Mark gave me a couple, and then over time I went over to Fuchsia Land, which was in Culver City, and there was a guy named Mike Kashkin who had a whole shade area full of these things that he had collected down in Central America and Mexico. So I got some from him, and there was another nurseryman named Fritz Kubish in Culver City, and Ken, I can see you nodding. You remember Fritz, and and so that kind of started. And what I did was when I was about 26, I decided I wanted to give it a shot to do these plants. So a buddy of mine, Chris Bosch, and I got a Jeep Wagoneer. We drove from LA down to Cabo San Lucas. We ferried over to Puerto Vallarta, and we drove through Tepic and Jerez and Zacatecas, and then we went down to Guadalajara and Mexico City and Veracruz, and we drove all the way around the Mexican Yucatan Peninsula, went through Belize, into Tikal, and down to Guatemala City. And then when I came back from there, I took the plants that I'd sent back, and I started finding little pieces of driftwood to glue them on, and I started selling them at the local swap meets, like the Rose Bowl swap meet. And that's where it all started. And after doing that for a few months, I was given the name and address of a guy in Guatemala who was exporting these plants. He was the first one. His name was Bill Harris, for whom Tillandsia heresy is named after. And so I sent him a letter, and a week or two later, I got a response back, and I started ordering plants from him. In the meantime, there was a guy named Gerson Vilick, if you've ever heard of Villickiana, Tillandsia Villickiana, and he had a whole backyard full of the plants, and I just was amazed at how much stuff he had. So I started buying from him. And then I got a hold of Bill's price list, and I started ordering from Bill. And then after a few months, Bill called me, and he said, "Hey, Paul," and it was like 6 in the morning. I'd never gotten an international call like this. I mean, this is like a big deal. It's like, whoa, 6 in the morning, I get this phone call. And he said, "How would you like to form a corporation? And we'll be 50-50 partners. And our corporation, my corporation, Tropi Maya, will sell to our corporation, and we'll save on freight because we'll ship in quantity, and we'll save on customs, and hopefully we'll be able to sell to people for about the same price as if they ordered directly from me themselves." So I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. So we did that, and it was right about that time that Jerry got into it. So there were the three of us, Jerry Robinson, my partner for 44 years now. And so it just kind of went from there. And it was just so much work over so many years. And Jerry had a good friend that he grew up with, whose dad was the #2 guy in the Lucky Gemco chain. And Gemco was our first chain store that gave us an opportunity to sell to them. And they gave us 5 test stores. And then over the ensuing years, we built up to all 86 stores or whatever it was. But right when we were going to do a Christmas promotion spread in all their stores, they went out because that was the corporate raider days in the early 80s. And in order to fend off the destruction of the Lucky Gemco chain, Lucky had to divest itself of the Gemco stores, most of which are now Targets. But what happened that was good was that the people that we had gotten to know and be friends with in all these stores segued into other companies that were just starting up in California, like Home Depot and Walmart. So that's how we grew over the years. So that's that one side of the ledger. The other side, of course, is this La Bellona Valley Bromeliad Society. And so, you know, I did this for 2 years before I ever knew there was anybody else in bromeliads. And then I found out, I don't remember how I did, but I found out about the La Bellona Bromeliad Society. And I started going to the meetings and all of that. And so then I became president in 76 and 77. And Danita Rafalovich, I don't know if any of you remember her. She was vice president, and Jerry was there. And I did it for 2 years, and then Jerry did it for 2 years, and Danita did it for 4 years. And, you know, we loved the club, and there were a lot of really terrific people that we got to know and meet. And in that time period, you know, this was, you know, I met Mark back in the mid 60s, and now we're up in the mid 70s. So I was thinking about this meeting, and there were 4 people in the founders of the Bromeliad Society that I knew. One of them was Victoria Padilla, and Vicky lived in, I should never say that. I'm sorry, take that back. Victoria lived in Brentwood, and great gal. Excuse me, didn't mean to say great gal, a very nice lady. And, you know, there's Frenchie Delago and Elmer Lorenz and
Delgado.
Yeah, I know, he was amazing. And yeah, he was a personality unto his own. I was thinking about a couple of things he told me, but unless everybody had a great sense of humor, which nobody has anymore, it wouldn't be appropriate to say them here. One of the comments was the Kathy Dorr. But yeah, and then David Berry was one of the founders as well. And I didn't know him. He had, I think it was called California Jungle Gardens on San Vicente. But his son, David Berry, I got to know real well. And he was general counsel for Southern California Edison, and a big supporter of ours over the years. So those people I got to know, and you know, it's interesting because they were the founders of the society when there were no members. And what I give them is a tremendous love of bromeliads. And back in the days when Bilbergia nutans was a big deal, and Eichmea gamma-sepala was a big deal, you know, there weren't any hybrids, there weren't any spectacular bromeliads yet, but these people were really devoted to them. I never did meet Mulford Foster from Florida, but I did get to know his wife, Racine. And, you know, so it evolved over time. And what these people didn't do that they, in my mind, they should have done is they never prepared anybody to pass on their knowledge and the organization and all that kind of stuff. And so over the years, people in different areas, especially Florida, their numbers grew and grew and grew. And so they felt left out because it was this clique in California that kind of ran everything. So eventually they got enough people and enough votes or authority or whatever you want to say that they just kind of moved everything from California to Florida. And in my mind, that was fine, because at the end of the day, all it is that we care about the plants, you know. And so I also got to know a number of people that I loved in the society. Oh, Elmer Lorenz, I didn't mention him. And Elmer just died a year or two ago. He was one of the founders. I don't know if he was 100 or 101, but Elmer was just a wonderful, wonderful, easygoing, marvelous man. So he was the 4th one. So there were original people that like Kathy Dorr and Leslie Walker, who, you know, we just heard about in one of the newsletters, who could use a card from everybody. I mentioned Bill Harris, who was down in Guatemala. You know, so back in the 70s is really kind of the embryonic movement of all of this, in a commercial sense and in a club sense. The La Bolona Valley Bromeliad Society is one of the first, I think, that was ever founded, and I'm not sure of the year, but I think it was maybe 1968. Two really great people were Walter and Edith Goddard. He was a Messerschmitt pilot in the war. And if any of you have heard of Andre's book that was published in 1895 on bromeliads after his trip to northern South America. And they had an original first edition of that. And you remember Michael Rothenberg did a second edition, or not a second edition, but he did a reprint of it back in the 80s. And so I got that, but I also got from the Goddards, I bought from them an original 1895, and it's just beautiful. It's spectacular. It's such a beautiful book. The drawings are just so amazing. So, and on Monday when we had the sort of the test run with Paul and Ken, I've got a lot of books like the Genera Species et Plantarum from Argentina in 1945 that weighs about 30 or 40 pounds. And I've got a lot of really cool bromeliad books, but wielding those in front of the camera, we decided really wouldn't work. And I work all day, every day, really hard, and didn't really have time to, prepare a whole lot for this meeting. So it's going to be mostly just me visiting with you guys without any eye contact going back the other way. So I kind of hope this is okay. So anyway, the society evolved, our club evolved, and there were other people who started getting into Tillandsias. Werner Krausby was big. He lived in Brentwood. He did a lot of stuff. Frank Messina got started. Pam Coity got started. Dennis Cathcart got started. And that was something I wanted to talk a little bit about too, was the incipient movement of the commercial market for Tillandsias, because we want to grow the clubs, and to grow the clubs, people have to be interested, and for them to be interested, they have to have plants, and for them to have plants, they got to be able to buy them at stores and stuff. So in the Tillandsia world, which is our biggest world, I guess we were the first ones.
Lost your sound.
Paul, you must have muted yourself. We can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. That just happened. I didn't touch the screen. I got my hands on my lap. Anyway, so I was saying that the embryosis, if that's a word, of the commercial market was back in the 70s. And one of the things, I've always felt is that, Kashkin and Kubish and these guys had Tillandsias at their nurseries, and other people did too. But I think we were the first ones to actually really go out and try and sell them to the public. And soon after that, Frank Messina came in and got a few things from us. And then he went out and did what's now called Tillandsia International. And Dennis Cathcart got in the game, and Pam Coity in 81 got in the game. And, and at first we were all kind of competitors. But what happened was that over time, we all evolved into our own niches. And it's something that I really like, is that everybody did fine. Everybody has their own market. They sell who they sell to, and they're all still going after all these years, and they're probably looking in the mirror and saying, like, when am I going to get a chance to retire? But
hey, Paul, it's Barry. Could I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Do you think that the 1984, what was called the Brome Olympics, which I believe you were the head of, I thought that had a huge impact in making bromeliads more popular. Do you think that made a big difference in Southern California?
I don't know the answer to that, Barry. I thought it was a great conference. Mark Dimmitt, that clump of intermedia that he sent out, and it's a really interesting anecdote, because it was by far the most amazing bromeliad anybody had ever seen, and all it got was a second place ribbon because it had some dead flowers on it. I'll never forget that. And there were people who just went literally by the book and missed the forest for the trees, But Yeah, it certainly had to help getting the plants exposed, as every World Conference does, because you do get members of the public. But now with social media that can reach all over the whole world, that's huge. You know, this little Zoom thing, unfortunately, I sent out the link to all these different people around the world, not a whole lot, just a few, but I sent out the link that was for Monday's meeting because I didn't know it was a different one for tonight. So it's like, oh, well, but I can see a time when there's lots of people that come into the meetings and, and that, I think that'll really help to grow everything. Plus it has to be about the availability of the plants. They have to be there for people to see and want to get. And Tillandsias are getting more and more popular. And what else is getting really popular are the mini neoregelias and the bigger neoregelias and the staghorn ferns. You couldn't give those away. And now they're getting really popular. And back in the early 80s, you couldn't give a bromeliad away. And now they're all over the whole world. So I've always waited for the Tillies to have their day in the sun. And, because there's so much what people want. They want something that's easy, that's really cool to look at, doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't get bugs, and you can ship them all over the world. I mean, what's not to like? So it's been a very interesting journey for us over the years, and we'll see how far we get into this talk before it's time to sign off, because even through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there's the zeros and the teens and all of that. It's been a really interesting ride, and it's changed a lot. Our markets have changed, we've changed, what we grow has changed, and you show up for work every day, you strap your helmet on, you do the best you can, and that's what you do. And everybody does what they do, but that's what we do, and we try and do the best job we can, and do it with love and honor and all of that, So a couple other people from the early days, and Ken, you'll probably remember, and anybody else out there that has the memory and was there with, Charles and Francis Wiley. I named, one of the Tillandsias after him. There's Solariana and Bulbosa. And Charles he lived in Palos Verdes, and he knew a lot about bromeliads, and he was a great supporter. And I'll never forget that he would always have a Cheshire cat's grin on his face when people would ask him this question, because he was like one of the gnomes, and they would say, do you know what this is? And he would always look at people with a stern look on his face, well, bring it back to me when it blooms. I'll never forget that. He would say that over and over again to people. And another were Don and Margaret Rock. Don Rock grew unbelievable neoregelias. And he died young. I don't know how young he was. I'm older than him now, for sure. But Don grew unbelievable bromeliads. He would win Best in Show all the time, and he was here in SoCal, as was Carl Lambert. And Carl and Doris Lambert grew phenomenal bromeliads. He was a fighter pilot in World War II. He had a twin-engine plane that he flew around. I see you leaving, Ken. And then he died. He wasn't that old either. He fell downstairs and hit his head, and that was that. You just, you never know. But for whom the bell tolls. And Stan and Val Olson. There's another couple totally involved with bromeliads over all the years and helped a lot at the conferences and all of that. They were in the South Bay Bromeliad Associates. Barry and Yvette Fisher, you guys know or knew. They were there from the early days. Barry, you've been there for so many years and been a big part of everything. And how about Bill Palin? Bill lived in West LA on Gretna Green, just north of Wilshire, and had this unbelievable yard. And he was in a microclimate. It was so cool because the Tillandsias would be pollinated by hummingbirds, and then they would set seed, and the seeds would blow around, and they'd land on the sycamore trees, and they would germinate. And so he had clumps of tillies just growing all over the trees that he didn't even plant. And he had grown up in the Dutch, not the Dutch Indies, but Dutch, down in the Moluccan Straits. And so he had a very broad international horticultural education, and he was he knew so much, and he was such a giving, loving guy. I mean, you know, Bill Palin was one of the best guys there ever was. And Fred Leonard, there's another one. He's been gone now for a few years. And Fred was a phenomenal grower. And Dutch Vandervoort from up in Carpinteria, and he would schlep his way down to the meetings, and you know, he grew great of the, you know, the sort of the dry growing terrestrials, the Dickeas and the Hecteas and all that. So, you know, there's all these people that went to make up the society. La Bologna has such a tremendous heritage that goes way back. And, you know, maybe over time, what this can do too is sort of bring clubs together where people get to know each other in different clubs. Because, you know, and I've been fortunate because I've spoken at so many clubs around the country and around the world. And, you know, we've got this great group of people all over the world that just love these plants. And now with social media and the internet the way it is, people can just connect. My daughter Kimberly does our Instagram, and, you know, I don't know how many people out there do Instagram and how many people out there follow Rainforest Flora. But we've got over 15,000 followers. And it's so cool to see people, you know, posting pictures and stuff. In our Facebook, Tillandsia Enthusiasts, the same thing. You know, it's just gratifying to see so many people really enjoy the plants, because that's what it's all about. And Barry, I got to say, you're the one that got us going on the videos and all of that. And you know, thank you so much for doing that.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, you know, Paul, I think your most watched video has like 56,000 views now.
Yeah.
But in total, I think you have 500,000 views.
Ouch. Not ouch. I mean, yay. Well, I mean, that's the thing. See, that's how we spread it. And really, you know, the way we're connected personally is by the plants, because we all love these guys, you know, and people out there they just haven't been exposed to them. And so, and it's international. And it's, I mean, I think it's just really exciting. I mean, I'm going to be long gone by a lot of the plants we have growing to actually reach maturity, but it's the process. It's the journey. It isn't the, you know, the end result. You know, I think every day, and, you know, you get older and you start thinking about, you know, you look at your watch and you know, how much longer have I got, Lord, you know, you don't know. And, but I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not in my 30s anymore. So, you know, you take advantage of the time you have and you do the best you can, and you go out, like I said earlier, and you strap your helmet on and you go out and you love people and you do the best you can, and you promote the plants, you know, and that's what you do. So without a pregnant pause, after, you know, in the Brome Society, like I said, I was president in 76 and 77. Jerry was 77, 78 or whatever. And there was the big LA Council show that we looked at as a prelude to the World Conference in '84. And we went through the 81 World Bromeliad Council, which was all the clubs in Southern California put together. And then, like Barry said earlier, we had the Brome Olympics, because the '84 Olympics, and we put Brome and Olympics together. That was pretty cool. At the LAX Hilton. You know, that's the last World Conference LA had, and that was '84. And San Diego's had 2 or 3 since then. And
Paul, can I just interject one thing?
Yeah.
I was the media guy for that. We actually got Channel 2 and Channel 5, the local LA stations, to come there. And I think it was the first time ever that a bromeliad event had local, you know, Southern California television coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was back, you know, in the early days of, you know, like the Osborne 1 and WordStar. And, you know, think where the world is now compared to then. Think about where the world's going. Do we know? Do we have any idea? But anyway, and then after the '84 conference, and, you know, I was on the board of directors for the BSI for 7 years, and I did all, you know, yada, yada, yada. But then I got involved with doing the first book on Tillandsias, and starting to have a family and raise kids, and trying to, you know, build rainforest and all that with Jerry. And so it just kept going from there. And it just, man, the years just flew by. They flew by. And, you know, we did all these trips to Latin America trying to get the original plants. We started trying to reproduce them, growing them from seeds. And that was funny too, because when we started in the early '80s, We didn't know what we were doing. And Charles Wiley always told me, he said, I can get them up to 2 years, and then they die. They always die. And they didn't die for us, but, people told us, that, oh, they can take, they could take like 3 or 4 years, man, like as long as orchids. And we thought, okay, well, we'll give it a shot anyway. Well, we didn't know that it would take like 6 to 25 years. I mean, if we knew that, we never would have started. But then when you're in the process, you start figuring that out. It's like, what do you do? Do you give up and go to work at a Kmart? Or you just eat beans and rice and keep going? So we just kept going. And, and it took, it took a lot of years, but we started getting some really cool stuff. And so we expanded with, like I said earlier, with the depots and the Walmarts and all of that. And then the '08 thing happened with the big collapse, and that made a big difference for everybody. And, so we had to kind of retrench and rebuild. And then there was the fire, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, 2017. Our family had tickets to go down to our favorite place in Puerto Vallarta for a week. The next morning, on Friday the 8th, 7 in the morning, our tickets. And I got a call from our general manager, the Balthasar down at Bonzel down there in San Diego. And he said, hey, Paul, this is about 10:30 in the morning. He said, hey, Paul, there's smoke coming over the ridge. And then he called me back an hour later and said, Paul, we have to leave. Everything's on fire. And then my daughter Kimberly called me at about 2:30, and she said, Daddy, I think our nursery's burning up, because they had the helicopters up there, and it was just these giant flames. So that's a big thrill for them. And so the next morning, our whole family drove down there. And of course, the CHP wouldn't let you in, because that's the easy answer, is just don't let anybody in. But this is my whole life. I have to go. I have to see what's going on here. So Balthasar told us some back roads we could use, and we found our way in. And it was about a mile from where the nursery was. And we started driving up the road to get to the nursery, and everything was completely fine. There wasn't one burned anything. It was just, everything was fine. So we started getting our hopes up. And then we got to the property, and it was just, it was gone. I mean, it was just, everything was gone. And there was still smoke and smoldering and stuff. And the weird thing was that it was only our property, for like a mile around. It was only our property that went. And it was just the luck of the draw. There was a number of different factors that came together in exactly the right or wrong way that caused that fire to hit us. And it just completely wiped it out. So, that was that. And then, so the year 2018 was really a tough year, because, we had to make the choice of whether to keep going or whether to just give up and walk away, which is pretty much what everybody recommended. But then again, what do you do? So we spent a year clearing out what was there and rebuilding. Many people from the Bromeliad Society, so many people from the Bromeliad Society, Marlene and Dave Kennedy, and so many people from up here, Catherine and Carl Pullman, came down there and helped us, and other friends helped us, and volunteers from down there helped us. And then we kept our people on the payroll. And, like I said, it took 3 months just to empty everything out of there. We lost, we guess about 70% of the plants, and about 30% of the plants lived. And I didn't put any of the pictures of the burn in here, and I figure a lot of you probably saw it down at the World Conference in San Diego. But if you ever come to the nursery, we got 8x10s up there you can look at. And then after the 3 months, so it started the rebuilding process. And, and then we were really fortunate, because President Trump put aside $7 billion for the victims of the Santa Rosa and the Woolsey and the Lilac fire. And so we made the application and did all that, and it took months and months and months, but eventually we did get funding that really helped us be able to rebuild. I don't think we could have done it without that. And what I love is that that's what it's created for. It wasn't trying to rip anybody off or anything else, but when somebody gets grievously hurt like that, everybody else wants to jump in and help. And how do you do that? Well, this program really helped us. It's kind of like the PPP program now with this virus thing that's running around. We did get some funds from that, and that has helped us stay in business too, because, otherwise we'd be out. We were lucky because our nursery is part of the ag industry, and ag industry is considered essential. So we didn't have to close. And, we put everybody on half time and reduced our hours, and, and then the PPP. And then fortunately, we didn't owe a lot. So we were able to borrow a lot. And so putting all that together, we were able to keep the whole thing going. So, we've been very lucky in that sense, unlike, if you're in the entertainment industry or the concert industry or the restaurant industry or, these other different industries, it's just so sad. It's so sad because what's happening right now, nobody knows. Nobody knows what the final answer is going to be. Nobody knows exactly what's going on with all this. We're still kind of in the middle of it. I think in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, then the truth of all of this is going to come out. But right now, nobody knows. And my youngest daughter, Casey, she's 27, and she majored in molecular biology. She went to the University of Arizona, which is where she met Brad. If you saw Brad earlier, who's a swimmer from South Africa in the Olympics. And, she got her degree in molecular biology. She got her EMT, and then she got her master's.
She's great.
Thank you, Brad. She got her master's in nursing. And now she's an ICU nurse full-time at the main hub hospital for the state of Arizona. So her 12-hour shifts every day are with people who are on the ventilators. And so not a very big percentage of people end up there, but for those that do, it's really serious, So it's a big deal. But the question is going to be how much of it is going to be a big deal for how many people, I don't know the answer to that. And nobody knows the answer to that.
It's Barry. I don't mean to drag you back in history, but could you just review for people? The first time I came to your nursery when you were Genus Tillandsia, you had the big greenhouse next to the freeway near the Federal Building in West LA. And I think you started there, and then you went over to Venice, and then eventually had the property, you moved the nursery to Gardena.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
now,
Barry. So the way that worked was when I started doing this in 74, as Ken, you said, it's Genus Tillandsia. I started in my backyard. And I hadn't done it for very long before Gerson Vilick found out that I was a competitor and had plants in my backyard. So he turned me into the building department because you can't run a business out of your house. And the guy, my luck, the guy from the building department shows up just when I'm packing an order for Sacramento. And so that was that. I mean, I had to find a place. And so I ended up renting a place on Venice Boulevard in Palms, directly across the street from the Brotman Hospital and next door to the world headquarters there. I say the Hare Krishnas. And so we were there, we moved there, and we were there for a year and a half. And then we outgrew that. And so we moved over to Mar Vista, and there were 5 acres of greenhouses on Grandview between Washington and Venice. And we rented one of those greenhouses. I don't remember how big it was. I think it's 20,000 feet or something like that. And we were there for a year and a half. And then that property was bought and turned into senior citizens apartments. And so that would have been the end of us, except for the fact that the company that bought it and went to get all their permits, there was a guy on the California, whatever commission it was, who was a customer of ours and loved bromeliads. So he told these guys that if you do this project, then you have to pay for the moving expenses of these guys. So we got Beacons and Allied and whoever, Mayflower and all, got these bids if they had to move the whole nursery. And then we used that money to move ourselves down to Gardena and then rebuild the greenhouse. We got the salvage rights to the big steel and glass greenhouse that was 18,000 feet. It was built in 1925 or so. in Biddeford, Maine. And then it was moved after World War II out to California to where it was in Mar Vista it was bought by a Japanese produce grower because they couldn't get wood after World War II. So in 48, it was rebuilt there in Mar Vista, and it was there until 78 when we took it apart, all the thousands and thousands of pieces of glass and the redwood roof bars and the steel purlins and the poles and the whole bit. And we moved them all piece by piece. It took us a year, and we moved it all down to Gardena, and we built it on this 2-acre property behind an Edison substation. And we got that structure up, the steel structure up, and we had it sandblasted. And then you see, it was really cool on the purlins. It said Carnegie and Company, you know, and the redwood roof bars, we wire brushed those and refinished them, and all the glass we cleaned and put it all back together again. And then we were there for 21 years in Gardena. And then Edison was ordered by the PUC to get rid of the property. They had to get rid of everything that didn't have to do with the distribution of electricity. And so we were on 2 acres behind the Edison substation there. So they had to sell it, and we tried to buy it, and it didn't work for a lot of reasons. So we had to move, and that's where we ended up, you know, where the place we're at now on Hawthorne and Torrance. So we were 21 years in Gardena, and now 20 years. And pretty soon we're going to pass up Gardena. I never thought we would. But 20 years in Torrance with our place now. So anyway, Barry, that's kind of the chronological order of where we've been. And so I don't know how long I've been yakking here, but you know, what I could do now is I could show you guys a couple of pictures. And Paul, do I, for people to see what I see, do I just put this screen down?
Yeah, you hit the share screen, and then you should be able to let us see what you've got on your computer.
Okay, this isn't quite the order in which I had it, but we'll get the idea here. So here's a picture of me, oh, I don't know, at least 300 or 400 years ago. And I still had hair, and I had a mustache. I went and climbed Mount Elbrus in the Caucasus. When was that? That was, I think, 2004. And you know, I had a mustache because I always looked really young for my age. And so I grew a mustache so I look a little older for my age. And then you get older and it actually starts turning gray. And then you look older for your age. So I went to Russia to climb Mount Elbrus. And then on the plane, I thought, you know, God, nobody in Russia is going to know what I look like or know me or anything. And that's cool. So I shaved off my mustache on the plane and got off the plane. And then I was there for 2 weeks. And by the time I got home, I was totally used to it. And there you go, you know, so that was the end of the mustache, the big caterpillar. So this was after a trip that I'd done to Latin America. And this was, I don't know if it was Paraguay or Argentina or somewhere, but I had to picture this Dorati because it was, you know, about 6 feet tall, as tall as I was. I have 2 other Dorati eye shots that I was going to put up against that. Here's one. No, that's not one of them. Okay. So I'll put this guy down. This is an, I don't know for sure what it is, plant. I think it has Gardneri and probably Didistica in it. And it's really pretty. And I have the other close-up of the bloom shot in here. It kind of got out of order. This is a beautiful Tillandsia proschecki, which is a Cuban species, which is, you know, it's pretty rare. There's not very many of those running around, but it's not that easy to grow. But it loves growing on the rock in the retail area. And this is Tillandsia piauiensis. And this is one that a lot of collectors want this one. You know, it just grows into a circle, and it's got this inflorescence that pops out. Piauiensis, and it's from Brazil. And we've only sold one of those. You know, we're jealously guarding them to try and build up an inventory. And here's one that probably nobody has. It's called Tillandsia organensis. And this is also on the rock. And you know, I love these little Brazilian ones because the inflorescence is so big. As those of you who are watching who aren't tilliophiles, Tillandsia philes, Um, they're mostly pollinated by hummingbirds. And these little guys have these giant inflorescences that are making a statement. You are not going to pass me by. You know, here I am. Yeah, here's a picture of a double blooming one here. And this, does anybody know what this is? Oh, everybody's on mute. Okay, that's a Tillandsia ionantha monstrose. There's no center to this one. You know, there's no, it's not an actual single plant. It just, their leaves grow from everywhere. So that's a cool one. And here's Tillandsia Casey. This is after our youngest daughter, Casey. And it's a hybrid of bulbosa and bootsii. And it's a real attractive plant. It's really nice. And here's a normal standard Tillandsia gardneri. And then the one behind it's very different. The leaves are secund, which means they kind of curve and grow in one direction like this instead of just growing all over the place. And you can see that the inflorescence is different. These leaves are also much thicker and more succulent. And I don't know where the original plant came from, but now we're up to, I don't know, about 10 or 15 plants. It only usually has like 1 or 2 offsets. And it gets big. I mean, it's a phenomenal plant. It's really, really pretty. And here's the close-up of the bloom on that other one that I showed you that's a hybrid of gardneri and maybe didistica. You know, very pastelish, really pretty. And here's Tillandsia carminea. There's another one of those Brazilian ones. And again, you can see the size of the inflorescence compared to the size of the plant. This used to be 30 years ago, it's fairly common. Now it's really, really rare. So we don't really sell that one too much, but it's a pretty picture. And Tillandsia burley marxi was named for Burle Marx, who, you know, the Brazilian. If any of you ever go down to Brazil and you go to Ipanema and you see the sidewalk there with the white and the black mosaics and the sidewalk that meanders and curves along the beach there, he's the one that designed that. I went to his house once years ago and it was pretty amazing. But this is named for him. And you can see the green floral bracts, the white flowers, and you know, and it does put out offsets along the trunk of the mother plant. But I like it a lot because it's like a snake. And here's a clump of Tillandsia bulbosa gigante. So this form gets really big. And it's usually green, as you all know. And then when it blooms, it turns this beautiful red with purple flowers, so the hummingbirds can't miss it. And so that's pretty cool. And here's a close-up of a single one. And this is well over 1 foot in diameter, maybe 16, 18 inches in diameter that they can get. So you get a clump of those going and you've got something really special. And down here, you can see all these little seedlings, and these are cyanias over here, and you know. And this is Tillandsia brachyphylla growing on the rock. We have just several of these. It looks a lot like the organensis, but the leaves are different and the bloom's a little different. And this is almost the last photo. Okay, so here are the 2 photos I was going to show you guys. This is a Tillandsia girardi that's about 6 feet tall, 2 meters. And there's an inflorescence here. And there's an inflorescence here. Flower is wonderfully fragrant. And I just couldn't resist doing sort of a funny picture. So I got up on the rock and I'm holding it. I got this is what I climbed Kilimanjaro and went to Everest Base Camp and Elbrus and all that. This was I call it my safari outfit, my hat. And then I got my son PJ's shotgun here. So this is my trophy plant. And so this one actually had a number of offsets, and we took this picture today. So this is an offset of this one. And you can see how tall it is, about 6 feet. And then the inflorescence is coming up, and right now it's still developing, but it's up to about here. And it's just getting ready to, finish developing the bloom spike.
Is it, Paul, is that the form from Argentina or the form from Bolivia?
That's the form from, I don't know where it's from, Barry. It just kind of came out of the woodwork. What's different about it is that it gets a lot bigger. It grows a lot faster. and the leaf tips really recurve a lot. It's like everything, all the good stuff put into one package. So I gave it a cultivar name of Hong Kong, or not Hong Kong, King Kong, Tillandsia girardi King Kong. And we've got, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 of them now that all came from that one original plant. And so it's probably just a regular girardi that was different than everybody else, you know, so.
But the majority of the population comes from Argentina, right?
Well, Argentina probably has the biggest population, but I'll tell you, Bolivia has a lot, and Paraguay has a lot, and Brazil has some as well. But, you know, if you go down there, you know, all the countries now except for Guatemala are pretty much just verboten, you know. It's really easy to shut stuff down. It takes courage to say, yeah, there's billions of them, go ahead and take a few, you know. I mean, it's easier to say, no mas. So fortunately, we have a lot of them growing up as seedlings, you know, up to maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches tall and on down, because it's just such a great plant. It's the most durable. Mark used to say, Mark Dimmitt, it was the only one he could grow outside in Tucson all year. You know, it just takes the heat, it takes the drought, and it has those wonderfully fragrant flowers and all of that. So yeah, that's a really good one. So do we have a Q&A?
Paul, if you're done, can you unrelease the screen share?
Okay, new share.
Yeah. Share
Okay.
screen, you should, at the very top of the...
No, I just have this little bar at the top and it says new share.
Okay, but what about options or something? Can you...
Okay, it goes mute, stop video, participants, new share, panel share, excuse me, pause share. Okay.
I did it.
See, you did it, not
Okay.
me.
I did.
We're all
I
learning.
didn't know I could do it.
Yeah, I didn't either, but here's to you, Paul.
Thanks. So you're back on screen view, and I guess you want to do question and answer now, Q&A?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions.
I'm going to unmute everybody, and then you should be able to
Here.
to talk if you'd like and ask questions. And Paul will answer as many as he can.
Dudley. Vicky. I see you, Vicky. Oh, no, that's not Vicky. Who's that?
So bear in mind, if you're unmuted and you really don't want to ask a question, we may see you doing.
No, I'm all set to answer questions. I'm just looking at all the troops out there. There's Tom. Hey, Tom. How are you, Tom?
Fine, how are you?
Good.
That's good.
I'm really happy. I'm almost done. No. How's Florida doing?
Hot.
I bet. Yeah, my brother-in-law's he's like in DeBerry, and he was talking to me earlier this evening, and he was just out in the patio, no shirt or anything. It was hot. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, how you doing? We miss seeing you here in Florida.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I ever talked there.
Damn.
Hi, Susan. Smile, Susan.
Hi, Paul. Out of Belgium.
Ah. So you'd say guten Nacht, but that's good night. So how do you say?
It's early morning.
Early morning. Guten Morgen. But that you'd speak Flemish, right?
Yes.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
To ask Paul?
I have a question. I have a question for Paul. Kind of a theoretical, intellectual question. There's been some luck in Europe and a few other places cloning and growing Tillandsia under laboratory conditions. Nonetheless, it still takes this quite a long time, as you said in the past, sort of 3 to 7 years for small Tillandsias to seed and 25 years for the larger Tillandsias. Do you think we'll ever get to the point where somebody can throw a couple new genes in there and speed these things up?
Yeah, but probably not in our lifetime. Caroline? Oh, shoot. Did I? Yo, there you are.
Yes.
How are you, girl?
Good, good. Thank you.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Are those apples behind you, or those? What are those?
No, these are grapes.
Wow,
Grapes.
they're as big as you are.
Yeah, it's,
So, how's everything over in Belgium?
yeah, everything is fine here. It's also summertime, but quite cold. Yeah, we do our best. I see.
Is your dad still around?
Sorry?
Is your dad still alive, or did he?
Yes, he's still alive. Yeah. He's now 89.
Give him my best. Give him my best.
Thank you. I will do.
Remember him from all the years, you know. How's Luke doing?
Luke is doing very well. He's doing more farmer work now, so.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. All right. Who else has a question?
So I want to thank you, Paul, and everybody that attended. My question is, would you mind telling everybody watching your hours and when you're open and how they can come down and see you if they want to?
Yeah, Caroline, I know you're going to be here in a couple of days, right? We're in Torrance on Hawthorne Boulevard, 19121 Hawthorne Boulevard. And we're open 9 to 5, Monday through basically Saturday. Sundays 11 to 4. And, you know, for the La Bologna people or local people, if you know, I'm assuming pretty much everybody's been there. But if you haven't, one of the nice things, there really isn't anything nice about the virus, really, but because so many people aren't working, a lot more people have time on their hands, and they've been coming
That's
to the
correct.
nursery.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see people come in the nursery and go, you know, oh, MG, I can't believe this place, blah, 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 blah. You know, so it's you know, I can't say very much because, you know, it's like our place, but it's, if you haven't been there, it's a treat. I think it's a treat, you know.
Oh, I'm coming on Friday. This is Tony Princiata from the cheese store. I mean, from La Bayona.
Hey, Tony, you haven't been there before?
Yeah, you know me. I bring my wine and stuff.
You got the cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring some cheese and we'll trade.
I haven't been in store for 4 months. I'm still
Oh, man.
in the island of Molokai. I can't go back, but I'll bring some wine and I'll see you on Friday.
Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, you know, we were lucky because, you know, we're part of ag and ag was considered essential. So we never had to close.
Yeah, we're kind of close, but they won't let me in. Because
You know, I mean,
I had
I
it in
don't want to
March.
get into politics of it, but it's
Yeah.
just, it's really sad.
Yeah, but I'll be down there. I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, Tony, that sounds great.
It's been totally great. This is the best Zoom I've ever seen. So, well,
That's my first Zoom I've ever seen.
well, I'm going to do the same thing with cheese and wine. So I'm learning a lot about it. So I'm going to do the
Friday
same
we'll
thing.
have fun.
Yeah.
If anybody
so,
else wants to show up, we'll just have to share.
Yeah, done. But absolutely fantastic. All
Well,
right.
thank you so much.
I'll see you Friday. I'll bring a couple of bottles.
All right. Yeah, we'll go through them.
Okay.
Okay.
I just realized that I'm still recording. I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah, we may get something off color on there. We wouldn't want to do that.
All right. Bye, Paul. See you Friday.